because faced with unprecedented challenges over the past 3 years, it's got far more of the important ones right than it's got wrong. Have there been mistakes? Of course there have. I'm not aware of any government of any nation, even in the most benign of times, that could claim otherwise. But of course these have not been benign times. But on the big questions facing the government, our country is in a better position now, because the Prime Minister has been in charge over the past 3 years, than it would have been if the Leader of the Opposition had had his way. On the decision to respect the referendum result, the Prime Minister broke the deadlock over Brexit that threatened to leave the country paralysed with indecision. While there are still important issues to resolve, it's clear that any of the 5 Conservative candidates to replace him will continue that work and secure Brexit, not reverse it. We know what the Leader of the Opposition wanted to do if he had become Brexit Secretary in 2019, another referendum to overturn the first one. We know that he promised Labour Party members what he promised: to become leader. He promised free movement across the EU. And we know that he is now telling voters that he wouldn't take us back into the EU internal market, but people are bound to ask, just who is he telling the truth to? This government and this Prime Minister called it right. And going into a global pandemic, this government recognised that normal procurement and distribution systems were not going to meet the need to get PPE to people who needed it most urgently. And at the time, the Leader of the Opposition attacked the plans for having too many checks, for being too slow, and for not awarding contracts quickly enough. Later, that criticism was reversed. Suddenly, there were insufficient checks and bureaucracy. But again, the government called it right and struck the correct balance. They put in place the biggest job and business protection schemes in British peacetime history to make sure that our economy was able to build back once the need for lockdowns had passed. 9 million workers' wages paid, nearly 3 million self-employed workers helped, and businesses right across our economy supported. If the Leader of the Opposition had had his way and the Right Honourable Member for Islington North's plans had been put in place, bankrupting the nation, we simply wouldn't have been able to borrow the money for that emergency help. And back when a COVID vaccine looked a distant prospect, the Prime Minister and the Government backed a range of potential vaccines and a superb task force with Kate Bingham, which the Opposition decried as waste and cronyism. The Opposition was wrong, the Prime Minister's right, and Britain got more vaccines more quickly than any other European country. I really don't have time. And it was the Prime Minister's personal intervention, sending back early drafts of the rollout strategy that brought together the NHS, armed forces and private sector to get those vaccines out more quickly than other large countries. And with Russian troops invading one of our European partners, we can be proud that it's our Prime Minister who has done so much to lead international support for Ukraine. It is simply not credible that to imagine that Britain would have stood as firmly against Russian aggression if it had been led by a man whose response to an assassination attempt on the streets of Salisbury had been to demand evidence be sent to Moscow. Of course I will.
To the honourable gentleman, does he think that the right response to that poisoning was to fix a meeting with a former intelligence agent of the KGB, without officials, without minutes, without any report to this House of what the hell happened?
Well, gentlemen, what the right response was, it was to coordinate the biggest diplomatic response since the end of the Cold War, where the Prime Minister, as Foreign Secretary, got more diplomatic responses than have been seen in decades. The Prime Minister has many achievements of which he should be rightly proud. His successor will have a strong foundation to build on, thanks to the decisions that he has taken over the past 3 years. And it's for these, I really shouldn't. It is for these and many other reasons that this House should continue to have confidence in Her Majesty's government.
Dame Angela Eagle.
Deputy Speaker, we do not currently have a